We're live. Wow. Okay. Hi. So, welcome to the progress check-in. And here we just do a quick check-in before the next week or ahead of the week. Here we give you actionable tips you can start working on immediately, so you can be more productive. You can get the most value as you really start working. Because it doesn't quite make sense to just wake up and expect miracles to happen and then you're productive immediately. You need to plan ahead. You need to know what tips to really push you forward. And so today's guest is Greyce Skinner, and she will be talking to us about how to stay focused throughout the creative process. So sometimes you're working and your attention wavers or you're not quite motivated. And so she will let us know how we can stay focused and stay committed to what you're working on, right? Did I get that right?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so we're gonna do a quick 5 seconds intro, and then Greyce will tell us more about herself, what she does, and we'll jump right into her tips. All right. Okay, we're back. So take it away, Greyce.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Abby. I'm so glad to be here. And hello to everybody that is watching. My name is Greyce Skinner. I'm a creative. I'll use that very general term. Based in Denver, Colorado, in the United States. My background is in theater. I grew up doing theater summer camps, and then I went to a performing arts high school here in the States, and then I went to college for film and live event production. My professional career encapsulates a lot of different uses of creativity. On one hand, I'm an actor. I also am an aerialist. So if anyone has ever seen Cirque du Soleil, the hoop and the trapeze and the lyra, I do a few of those apparatus. I also teach them. And then on the other hand, I worked in live event production. So I was on the organizational side, not the performing side, helping to organize and then execute big corporate conferences and conventions. That was pre-COVID. So now my focus has come back to the creative side of my skill set, where I'm teaching workshops, teaching classes, specifically targeted in creative movement. But that's required me over the past 3 years or so to really develop, cultivate, iterate, edit my brand that I use specifically for aerial and creativity.
Okay. Okay. So you're a creative person who like dangles in the air and all of that. And then you do lots of workshop and so how do you like stay like motivated, stay focused, do not like start one thing, abandon it halfway and hop to the next one, and then have like a series of unfinished projects in your way. So how do you do all of that?
Right. I think it's very important to start with my working definition of focus, which focus for me, I imagine like the aperture of a camera or your iPhone, right? When you're zooming in on something. When I think of focus, my working definition of it is I'm bringing my full energy and attention to something. I'm really narrowing that aperture and zeroing in on something specific. But I think even before you can think about me putting all of my energy and attention on something, there was a process of me learning what I wanted to put my energy and attention on. So when it comes to your inquiry about projects and having the ability to zero in on one, sometimes there is a need to scatter that, understand, oh, I'm much more interested in this thing, and then zero in on that. But as far as my process now, where I feel much more grounded in what I'm interested in, here are the tips that I would give if you have an interest in something, you're applying energy and attention to it, and then you're starting to realize, oh, the longevity of this, the sustainability of this focus is so demanding, because it is. I read 2 books that really changed my life and changed my perspective
Okay.
about creativity. So one of them is The Creative Habit by Twyla Tharp, and the other is The Artist's Way by, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting her name. I think it's
It's fine.
Julie Cameron is the last name. But something that they talk a lot about is the ritual of creativity. And when I say ritual, what I mean is it's consistent, and it's in pursuit of setting up a sacred space for you to be creative. And the biggest skill, right, that you can take and start to execute for yourself was in Artist Way, and actually I think in Creative Habit too. And both of these women talked about in the morning getting up and writing. Getting up and
Writing
writing,
what?
journaling.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So when I was 26, so this would have been almost 5 years ago, I started to write every morning. Every morning I would get up, I would go downstairs, I would make my coffee, which is very important also, and then I would sit down and I would write. And originally I would write a paragraph, and then I would write a page. And then I read Artist's Way, and she says she prescribes writing 3 pages every morning. And if you're sitting there and you're going, oh no, I don't want to. I understand completely. I can only offer up what's worked for me. But essentially what this achieves is that every morning I know I'm getting up, I'm making coffee, I'm sitting down, and I'm writing 3 pages. And I don't get up until I finish. And consistently it takes me 20 to 30 minutes. But it's
what are you writing, though?
anything.
Like, what exactly happened in your nights? That's 3 pages worth.
Right. I know, right? I'm dreaming. I'm sleeping. I just slept. There's not a whole lot that has happened in the 12 hours since
right now.
writing. Yeah. But the author of The Artist's Way makes this argument that when you sit down and you write every morning, you get an idea of the landscape of your brain, your emotions, your spirit, starting your day. So if I'm having a morning where I just am thinking, I don't want to do anything, or this task that's coming up later today is causing me so much anxiety, or, oh, I have a huge day ahead of me, I'm sitting down and I'm writing all of that out before I even start. So oftentimes what's coming up on the page is the things that I'm afraid of, what I feel nervous about, what I'm really excited about. And it helps me to orient myself to that day. I get a very good idea intimately of where my mind is at, how much energy I have to give that day. It also helps me to write out, let's say that something did happen the night before and I went to sleep thinking about it. It gives me an opportunity to get that up and out of myself and onto the page so I can see it. And it's not something I have to carry around that day. It serves so many purposes. Sometimes I get creative ideas. If I had a dream that night and I wake up, the first thing I do is I write it down. Oh, I had this dream about this thing. It's an idea. I could use that for a story, right?
Okay.
So creating ritual and that writing as a very actionable step that you can take every morning or every night. You can find a time that works for you. I do it in the morning where I can sit down and have a conversation with myself. So that's one thing. The other thing that transformed my life as far as creating ritual, right, these consistent sacred practices, is I really had to, for myself, make sure that I was getting good food every day, that I was getting sleep, and that I was moving my body. Those were 3 those were 3 needs that I identified for myself. And for everyone, they'll be different, right? Like you may need 5 quiet moments to yourself every day. You may need to do your makeup. You may need to sit down and drink a cup of coffee. You may need to have a meaningful conversation with your partner, right? Everybody has these needs that are
Morning rituals that works the
non-negotiable.
best for them. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But for me, I don't function at my best unless I get sleep, unless I eat food throughout the day
Yeah.
that nourishes
What
my
else would you
body.
eat?
Right. Well, and I think for a while my diet was no good, and it really impacted my ability to
Yeah,
be
that I
actively
agree
engaged
on.
in my life. Yeah.
Yes.
And then movement. I need to get up and do 20 minutes of movement. I need to go to a class. Right now with COVID, obviously that's not happening. But
Yeah.
I need to make sure that I'm going out and walking. So those are my three
Oh, I can relate.
non-negotiables. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I found out that after like a quick 15 minutes kickboxing exercise in the morning, my mood just like goes up. I'm like, yeah, bring it on.
Yeah,
I can get that.
exactly.
I understand.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
when I'm at my peak creativity, my peak focus, I'm carving out time for those things every day because I know those are the three things that if I'm not doing them, my mental, emotional, spiritual health really does, it is impacted. And I
Yeah.
wanted to believe for a long time that that wasn't true, that I could eat a pound of gummy bears
Whatever
and
you want.
still feels
Yeah.
great, but it's not, that's not the case.
Nah, no,
So
you don't. Yeah, it doesn't. You feel it. You think you don't, but after the day ends, you realize you're not as productive as you would have. You're not as not energetic, but you're not as really putting yourself out there as you normally would. Your mood is a bit lower. You don't talk to people as much as you would have. You're more like withdrawn. That I can definitely relate to.
yeah, yep, absolutely. And then I would say the second, this is the second and the third point. If ritual and routine is the first one, then
Hmm.
for me, the second slash third, and I combine them together because I think that for me, I couldn't have one without the other, is
Okay.
simplifying everything in my life that I could simplify. If we
Okay.
are women who are working towards a goal of a specific business, right? And for me, my business is creativity, and creativity takes so much energy. It takes so much
Much
energy,
mental
it takes
space.
so much time. Say again.
Yeah, like it takes
Yeah,
so much like mental power, like that mental energy from you being creative. Like it's better be so physical, but you can easily burn out and just get exhausted and drained mentally.
yeah, which is such a bummer. It is not, it it can be a burnout, but it doesn't have to be. And for so long in my early 20s, I felt really burnt out by creative endeavors and building websites and hooking scheduling tools up to the websites and all the things that are happening on the back end of a business.
Yeah.
And what I realized, this is recently, within the last 2 years, was that my creative life is so complex. What I'm trying to achieve has so much complexity to it. Telling a
Okay.
story requires so much energy. My day to day life cannot be complicated. In order to
Okay.
achieve complex creativity, my day to day life, meaning to my interpersonal relationships, right? My relationship with a romantic partner, my relationship with my family, my relationship with my living space needs to be as simple as possible.
Yeah.
And so, what that required for me when I recognized, oh, in order to put out the amount of energy that I'm putting out towards the organization and execution of my creative business, I need to be setting really firm boundaries in my personal life so that I have the energy to put into the things that I'm trying to accomplish. Because if my personal schedule was stacked every single day with managing like I'm trying to think of a good example. Oh, taking on more than I actually can. My mom calls me up and wants to get together, and I know, like, oh, if I go and I do dinner with my parents again this week, I'm not going to have the energy to engage with this task that I need to get done. So even if I go to dinner, I'm not going to feel great being there because I'm just thinking about the thing that I need to do.
Yeah.
I started to learn you need to know how to say no.
No.
No. Yeah, exactly. Or somebody calls me up and says, hey, I want to do this project. This is the time commitment. This is what is going to be involved. And I understand in that conversation that I'm not going to be able to engage with that project because I'm already stretched too thin.
Yeah.
When I was in my early 20s, I would jump on everything.
Yeah, take it all. Just
that was
do
when
as much as
yeah.
possible.
And I started to realize that's not sustainable either. And where before I was saying yes to everything, over a period of time, I started to tip the scales on that. And now I say no to far more things than I say yes to. Yeah.
I guess you have to put yourself first. You have to consider that if I say yes to this thing, do I have the energy to do anything else? Are there other more important things that we're focusing on, other commitments I've made? Will saying yes impact this task on in front of me, or at least impact my mental or physical health? I guess that would lead to several relationships, whether romantic or platonic, being a bit iffy. Like, she says no to everything. That would impact that in a way.
Yeah. And when we're talking, and we are in this particular conversation about really actionable steps to take for a while, right? So let's say from 20 to 26, I was saying yes to everything. Then in my late 20s, I started to move to the other side where I was pretty much saying no to most things. And now at the age of 31, right, I've started having explored both extremes. I've started to come back to a place in the middle, which requires much more nuance and discernment. So there was a period of my life where I was saying yes to everything. Then I tried on, just like you try on a jacket. I was like, I'm going to say no to everything. And I said no to most things. And now I'm coming to a place where, for example, this is how it plays out in my personal life, because I'm talking about the need to simplify my personal life. My boyfriend is an extrovert, loves socializing, has energy to socialize. It's unlimited. He's like the Energizer Bunny when it comes to socializing.
Zero energy.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, I'm an introvert, and I'm an introvert. So I recharge being alone, and socializing is usually where I had to draw hard boundaries and say no, because I don't have the same energy for it that an extrovert has. So my impulse with socializing, meaning going and seeing friends or going to the park and throwing frisbees around with family or whatever, is to say no. But now I recognize
that's my default also, like, no, going nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. But now I'm understanding, there are times where, for example, I knew that I was doing this conversation in the morning. And so I need time in the morning to get up and get ready. I wasn't going to stay out late last night. That was a hard no. I simplified that. I just said, I need to get ready for this thing. But then let's say tonight, if something were to come up, I recognize, I do have the bandwidth for that. I did what I needed to do this morning. I was prepared. I was ready. I did my makeup to sit down and talk with you, right? All these things that I needed to do. But then tonight, like we could go out and do something. We could go and have dinner with my family, for example. So it's finding the balance between the two, but knowing that for me, the inner workings of my personal life need to be very simple in order for me to be able to engage the way that I need to engage. With my work.
And so like for us who are introverts, the simplicity part makes sense. Like, I don't want to go anywhere. I have no energy for anything. But if
Mhm.
you're more extroverted, is this simplicity still necessary? If you have the
It's
energy
so
to burn.
Sure, it's such an interesting question. And of course, I know only my own experience and perspective and my inner landscape. So answering that question with any definitive answer feels prescriptive in a way that's not appropriate. I don't think I could speak for someone else. What I would
Mhm.
encourage is is sitting still. Whether you're an
Oh.
introvert or an extrovert, that process, whether that's sitting down and writing or sitting down and taking 30 breaths every day, you're getting information about how you feel. And I think that it's true that every type of person gets burnt out. And when I suggest simplicity, I think what I'm actually getting at is the process of looking at yourself and identifying before it happens when you're starting to deplete your energy to a point where you are going to have difficulty engaging at the level that you want to engage.
Okay.
And so the simplicity factor, the drawing boundaries and saying no, is about recognizing that regardless of whether or not you're someone who has a huge amount of energy or someone who has to be very, very diligent in making sure that they're managing their energy because you don't have as much, we all reach a point
Yeah.
where we start to get burnt out. And so the sitting down and the writing, the taking time for yourself, sitting down and taking 30 breaths are all tools to help you sort of look at your gas gauge in your vehicle, right? And seeing when you're starting to get low so that
Like an empty
you
tank. Like I'm heading towards
yeah,
this. Yeah.
uh-huh. And hopefully getting to a place like now I can usually feel burnout coming instead of just arriving in burnout and needing
Like,
to
oops,
take
yeah, we are.
yeah, exactly. And needing to take 2 days a week where I don't feel great because I completely depleted myself. So
Yeah.
that's what I would encourage is engaging with yourself in a way where there's room for introspection and reflection on how you feel. Because we're
Okay.
no good to anybody, whether it's ourselves, our employees who are reliant on us, unless we are able to identify what we need and then do it for ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so now we've talked about the journaling, writing like 3 pages a day and just sort of offloading all of that, whether it's the anxiety of the task ahead, whether it's what happened the day before, and you don't want to like keep that in you as you start a new day, whether it was a new idea that came to you while sleeping, or maybe it's just a weird dream you had that was like quite funny. It's just like coming with a like it's a completely clean slate to start in the day. So that was one of the tips for staying focused. Then we
Mm-hmm.
talked about these habits, whether it's eating properly, whether it's meditating, whether it's exercising, whatever it is, these little activities that you have to do every day, this routine that bring in the energy to your day. So for you, it's eating well, it's sleeping well, it's moving. For
Mm-hmm.
me, it's like 50 minutes kickboxing or like a nice hit routine, just like whoop, energy up there. So like so whatever it is, yeah, this day-to-day task that really bring and elevate your mood, get that done. Then we talked about setting boundaries and saying no, and then simplifying your interpersonal relationships, what's going on in your life. You cannot expect to have a complicated life and all the energy required to like uncomplicate that, so you deal with all that. What about your business? You don't quite have the energy for that anymore, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we've covered like think 4 tips. Yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
journaling, the day-to-day habits, the boundary setting, the what's the last one again, the simplifying your life.
Mm-hmm.
So are there any other tips to be more focused? or these are the main four?
I think those are the main four. And as far as really actionable ways to implement those ideas, I would start with, and for me, setting a timer is always really helpful, right? I would start with writing, and I would set a timer for an amount of time that's actually reasonable for you to do that. It may be 2 minutes. You set a timer for 2 minutes, you write for 2 minutes. When the timer is done, you walk away. And then I would also say the sitting and being still is the first step that I found that was really effective towards this process of simplifying my life and making boundaries for myself. And I would sit down and I would do 5 deep breaths every day. That's 5 breaths that are just for you to sit down and identify how you feel. What is happening in your body, where your mind is at. And if 5 breaths seems reasonable, do 30. And then sit down and do 5 minutes where you're just sitting and breathing. Those are the 2 things that I would say have transformed my ability to focus more than anything else. The rest of it will come, right? Ritual and routine, you build over time. That's a lifestyle. Simplifying your life, whatever that looks like for you, lifestyle. But those are 2 really actionable things that you can start doing right now, and aim to do it for 5 days. And then if you get to the end of 5 days, do it for 30. At that point, it'll have become a habit, and you might continue it for 20 years. Writing for a set amount of time and breathing for a set amount of time.
Yeah, okay. And so for anyone who's watching this and they're like, okay, she's a creative person, she totally gets my vibe, and they would like to learn more about what you do and how to work with you. So what's the process like working with you?
I hope it's effective, I suppose. I am very kinesthetic. And so whether I'm working with someone who's a business professional or someone who is coming in, they've been acting since they were a kid, whether they are an engineer, regardless of what walk of life you're coming from, if you were to come and work with me, when I say we're going to sit down and learn how to breathe, I mean, we're actually going to sit down and we're going to go through the finer details of breathing by doing it. If you're wanting to speak more confidently, right. If you're wanting to speak more confidently in presentations as an entrepreneur, we're going to go through the mechanics of voice and movement by doing it. You're going to do vocal exercises with me. You're going to do physical warm-ups. You're going to actually explore what it is to take up space with your body. If you're coming to me as a creative, an actor, a mover, and you're wanting to create stories with your body, right, choreography, or you're wanting to work on character development, we're going to actually do that thing. So we're going to step in and do physical exercises, vocal warm-ups, and actually start to feel in the body what each of those things is like. It's not very heady. It's very much in the body.
Okay. Well, she almost at 30 minutes, but you can learn more about Greyce on her website, which is www.greyceskinner.com. So the website is in the video, like the ticker, and it's also in the description below. So you can learn more about working with Greyce and what she does by coming to her website. And we are at 30 minutes. Woo! Wow, so okay, now we can start wrapping this up. All right, so it's been great learning about how to stay focused. We talked about the 4 main tips, as well as the 2 actionable tips you can start doing, which is the journaling and just staying still, or in her case, taking some deep breaths just for you and scanning your body to see what's going on, how am I feeling, and really using that, starting with that immediately, even if it's morning or night or afternoon, wherever you are. You can take out a book and start journaling right now. You can just stay where you are and do your deep breaths. So just take a few minutes of silence and do nothing but breathe. You can start doing that right now, no matter the time. I mean, I know we talked about doing this when you wake up, but you can start doing it right now. It's actionable.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right now? Hey. So it's been fun, and it's nice to have you here and learn about how we can stay focused and how to really, really stick focus in the creative space. But this applies to more than just a creative process. You can apply this anywhere. So it's all about how to stay focused and how to really bring simplicity, bring energy towards your day, so you're not carrying the baggage of what's going on in your life or the day before, or what anxiety towards the task you have to do. You really stay focused on what you have to do right now, and put your energy on that as you think of what's to come. Because if you burn out all your energy right now, you won't have the energy for the next task. So as you stay focused on this task, you have a clear idea of what I need internally towards my next task. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
you summarized it nicely. So this is Greyce Skinner. Once again, you can learn more about her and how to work with her at greyeskinner.com. And it's been nice having you
It's
here.
been so nice being here. Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye. And that brings us to the end of the live. Bye. The replay will be up shortly.